New concerns about Ukraine. The United States and Russia are both signaling a possible escalation over the crisis there. And on that state visit to Japan, U.S. President Barack Obama indicated that a third round of sanctions could be imposed within days unless Moscow reins in the masked gunmen that Ukrainians in the western half of the country have started calling little green men. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin called the use of Ukrainian armed forces against the Russian activists a crime against its own people. CCTV's Nathan King has more from the newsroom. Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Ed. Just to bring you up to date, by the way, we're expecting a statement from U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry any moment on the Ukraine crisis. We will bring you his comment, but you're right. As the government escalates what it calls an anti-terror campaign from Kiev, Russian militia against Russia militia in the east and south of the country, the principal international backers of each side are not just using words, but are also taking action. First of all, Russian President Vladimir Putin, as you said, told an audience in St. Petersburg that the killing of pro-Russian activists are proof that Kiev is acting like a junta or a criminal gang.
If Kiev really began to use the army against the country's population, that is a very serious crime against its own people.
And Moscow is moving. The country's defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, announced Thursday that Russian troops in areas surrounding Ukraine have begun drills. The Air Force is also included. The announcement comes the day after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said there would be a response against any attack on pro-Russian supporters. Meanwhile, the U.S. president, while on that state visit to Japan that we've been reporting on, said that unless Russia urged a pullback in eastern Ukraine, more sanctions will follow.
My expectation is that if, once again, Russia fails to abide by both the spirit and the letter of what was discussed in Geneva, that there will be further consequences and we will ramp up further sanctions.
Yeah, and Russia counters the West and Kiev are not implementing the Geneva Agreement signed last week either. And while the US and NATO are urging a pullback of what they say are 40,000 Russian troops on Ukraine's border, Moscow is complaining about the NATO exercises in Eastern Europe. Remember, the first group of about 600 US troops arrived on Wednesday in Poland to reassure nervous US allies.
Nathan, the situation seems to be escalating on the ground in eastern and southern Ukraine. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, you've seen the tit-for-tat shootings at checkpoints. We've seen actually Kiev erect its first checkpoints in some of the disputed towns. They have relaunched that anti-terrorist mission. But every time you see that sort of flexing of Russia's military muscles outside the borders, you do get a hint that Kiev is not necessarily pulling back, but at least holding back from trying to retake these towns. This is a very, very difficult situation in whereby Russia has vowed to protect Russian minorities in Ukraine, but the interim government in Kiev says it must be in control of all its territory. We have entered a new and potentially escalating dangerous phase of this 4-month crisis.
CCTV's Nathan King live in our newsroom. Thank you.